Hello. Hi, lads and ladettes. So, because the English summer is so spectacular, we are all wearing today sunglasses, including my lovely friends here at the table. And today's lesson is going to be about the use of sunglasses while you are painting. I am serious. I am really talking about sunglasses while you paint. And from all of my friends down here, and finally I know how to zoom, so I can show you them close up. So you've got a lovely Greek sculpture, you know. She's a bit asymmetrical, so this is her best side. As you can see, better than that one. So her more beautiful sides. Yeah, she likes to present herself like this. Then this is the cast of my own face, which I will use for the Portuguese lesson. Then you've got this wonderful, wonderful rabbit that I brought from Oman. They're all wearing sunglasses, and so am I. Has nothing to do only with the wonderful British summer, but it's also very useful to a painter. Last week, I started painting the hands, which I'm going to carry on today. And this is the cast of the hand that we used last week. And I'm going to show you what to do in terms of tonal values by using sunglasses. Now, question number one, which color of sunglasses should we be using? I've tested quite a few. Actually, I've tested all of these colors. You know, I've tested yellow, red, orange, and green. And when you look at the world through green sunglasses, interestingly, Facebook autocorrects the color, so it doesn't let me show everything green. Can you see that? It actually autocorrects the color. Wow, it's quite amazing. But these are bright green sunglasses, really, really dark green sunglasses. I got this cheaply online. You know, if you type John Lennon deep green sunglasses, you can get them really cheaply. And the thing with this type of sunglasses is that you can assess your tonal range. So mistake number one, and I can see Renato is now watching me. Renato, I'm learning from you. Can you see my face is further away today? Yeah, I do learn. Mistake number one, when you're shading, you don't really have a system for perceiving the wrong tones in your painting unless you use tricks. Either you need 20 years of experience in order to see the tones, or you have to learn tricks like this. Two tricks, sorry, it was a bit dirty. Two tricks to double check if the tones of your painting are correct or not. This one I already spoke of. It's a black mirror. You can also use the, the screen of a mobile phone. So the black mirror, you just put it here and then you look up. And you look at the reflection of the painting on your mirror, or you put it here, you close the further away eye, you put it here on the side of the nose, you rest your mirror, and now I'm looking into the mirror and I can see you in the eye, and you can see me in the eye too. Let me see how near I can get. I'm literally looking at you through the mirror. I doubt you can see me. But if you use, oh Diane, this is the best lesson ever, you know, British summer, and we are going to use the sunglasses to move our painting to the next level. Now, my lovely friends will have to move away soon, and we will have to set up the hands and carry on with the hand painting. Tonight, I've decided not to talk politics, just for tonight. So I do apologize in advance if I don't insult you or your beliefs. I'll get back to you next week, okay? Promised. And I just want to tell a little story. I really have to share this with you because I'm really, really, really happy. It's more than happy, I'm excited. I received a phone call from a company called Industrial Light and Magic. And I assumed that they sell light bulbs. And they asked me if I could teach painting for them. And I said, of course. For some reason, I imagined a little garage in East London and they sell light bulbs. That's what I imagined. So I said yes, we did the thing. They emailed me, it's all confirmed. I'm starting on Tuesday, so after tomorrow. I'll be teaching online. But I was wondering, well, because the PA of the company, she was always saying, my artists, my artists. So I thought, oh, they must be stage artists, like light designers, My artists, they need to learn how to draw. So I thought, yeah, stage designers. And they sell light bulbs, correct? With such a name. What would you think? Industrial light and magic. It sounds like light bulbs to me. Fluorescent light tubes, I'd say. And then and then my friend Renato, because I'm filming the next set of professionally filmed courses, not live streams, proper art courses. Renato asked me, what's the name of the company? We went to Google it. It's Disney. Walt Disney asked me to teach their artists. Wow. So we went to Google the company. They already won 13 Oscars. They made Star Wars. They made scenes for Forrest Gump, the Pirates of the Caribbean, you name it. All the big films in the last 30, 40 years, because Star Wars are already quite old. So yeah, Industrial Light and Magic was created by George Lucas and Walt Disney to actually make Star Wars. And they've been in business ever since. So I'm really excited to start teaching them on Tuesday. Now, enough of speaking about me. Let's get back to the painting. Questions. You might have questions from last week. I'm just going to set up. Enough of the silly sunglasses, Diane. I know it was all your idea, probably. I'm inspired by your personality. Let's take these lovelies out. But I think I'm gonna leave the rabbit, because don't you think is unbeatable? Yeah, let's keep the rabbit here. This rabbit will be our muse for tonight's art class. And there we go. Let's put on the hands. I don't remember. Well, you are seeing it from a slightly different angle than I am. I will try this time to put the hands in a more similar position than the one you see. So I'm seeing it totally from a different angle. But today will be minor shading adjustments minor shape adjustments and definitely shading adjustments. So because I've learned to zoom in, yay! We can zoom in and you can see the rabbit. And with a little bit of luck, maybe not. Okay, rabbits, off you go. Goodbye, rabbit. I loved you, but we can't stay together. There we are. With a little bit of luck, you can see the palette. I will try to make my color mixing up here. Okay? Raji, good question. So what shade of sunglasses works the best? I mentioned it at the start of the lesson, but I want to reinforce the best shade that I found so far is dark green. And when you see the world through dark green, you can start comparing the values that are over here with the values that are over there. Now, this technique of the sunglasses works particularly well if you are matching the exact tones. We are not doing that. Our lightest lights in this cast, on the painting, we had agreed that it was going to be a very dark or gray-orange, okay? So I'm not doing an exact copy. Otherwise, as you can imagine, I would have to hit pretty much pure white in the lights. That's not what we are going to do in this painting. I will still keep the values that we agreed last week, because this is a lesson about complementary colors. It's not a lesson about light and dark. But I am going to use the sunglasses just to check if the relationship between light and dark is correct or not. I will start painting, okay? And then I'll explain as the painting goes. So, please write it down straight away. How am I going to do the light orange tones? Bright or dull? Let's see if you guys watched last week's lesson. You already know, because you can see I just squeezed gray. I've just squeezed gray into this. And what about the darks? Bright or dull? You can still see in here, okay. So I'm going to have some super bright tones, which I haven't used last week. Oh, it's squeezing, it's really dripping. Let me shake this. I can't use this paint. Because I forgot I added water to it, you know. I'm going to use that one instead. Because I might need some really truly bright, cool colors as well. And I really hate to... Crystal, dull what? I don't know if you know. Dull what? Dull lights or dull shadows? I don't know if you know. Right. And let's begin the drawing lesson, the painting lesson. And first things first. Should you fix first the colors or the shapes? You guys tell me. So remember, I was seeing this from a different angle. Actually, it's more something like that. But I was looking at a very different angle from you guys. And there's a lot of fixing. And I think the hand was lower last week. It was a different angle altogether. There's a lot of fixing to do. And first things first, we're going to start with the shapes. Exactly. Our initial zigzags, they're not bad, but they're not perfect. And we need to start bringing some of these shapes into a higher level of development. So I promised you that the first thing to do are shapes, and well, I just hope that some of that holds. So essentially, what I am doing right now is just bring this slightly higher, because it was too low. And when I look at all the fingers, generally speaking, they're just ever so slightly too, what's the word? I tend to work from thin to thick. So it's important, but that's not right or wrong. It's just a option. So I prefer to paint things ever so slightly too thin, and then gradually increase the shape, than the other way around. And why? Because psychologically, we have the tendency to draw and paint things bigger than they should be. So in order to counteract that, I prefer to paint them a bit smaller and then increase the size. Do you understand? Please type yes. Yes, I do. The gap between those fingers was way too big. I don't think I can set up the exact position that I saw last week. So let's leave it as we see it today. I will try to use this new shape. You know, I will try to make use of the new position and just ignore whatever happened last week. You know, so whatever happened last week doesn't really matter. So at this stage, you can start being, how can I say this? You can start being much more bold with your shapes. I will trim the bottom of the finger later. At the moment, I'm exclusively working with light orange color. So I'm going to use all the light orange shades first and foremost. Okay, let's bring this slightly forwards, and eventually we're going to trim all of that shape. Actually, I did paint that back with the leftover of orange last week. It was just to fill up the paper. Now when I go over the blue, I will cut this off. And we had agreed that the lights would be grayish and that the shadows would be lighter. would be brighter, sorry, would be more vivid. So at the moment I'm just killing all of the bright orange shapes. Now, question to the class, because you guys are not looking forward to a lesson where I just speak and speak and speak and speak. And I do have that tendency anyway, so don't motivate me. Question to the class. Would you... Sorry, just finishing this bit, and then I'll deal with the finger, with the thickness of the finger later. Would you prefer... and this is a question to the class. Would you prefer that I break both lights and shadows into bright and dull, which I don't recommend usually? Would you prefer if all the lights are dull and the shadows bright, like we spoke last week? And that's what I would like to carry on doing, if possible. Or would you prefer if the lights are dull, as they are now, and then when I get to the shadows will have an amazing break between... Okay, I will not give you an option. Let me just paint. I better not give you an option, right? If you guys have any questions, please ask them now, okay? Because I can read and paint. I'm now always looking at the camera to make sure that you, whatever you write, I'll try to read. So let's bring the light further down here. I'm never going to paint again like this. It's very flimsy, this easel. How did I dull the orange? How did I dull the orange? How did I dull it? I mixed with what? I'm going to ignore too much detail, so at the moment I'm just structuring here. And now look what happens. There is a thickness of muscle there that needs to creep into the shape of that finger, because at the moment this is too thin. You see the back of the hand. From where you are looking at, from where I'm looking at, it's actually too thick. But I told you that I was going to keep more in relation to what you see, so we don't have... So we're not talking different languages, you know. You need to be able to... You need to be able to see more or less the same that I am seeing. In terms of light, I still need much more light up here. Technically, the two fingers should be overlapping, you know. Eventually, I'm going to drop a little bit some of this top. I know I brought it up, but the painting is a process where actually you play with, you bring it up and then down and then up and then down until you get the shape that you are looking for, if that makes any sense to you. Okay. Now, I'm curious to see what does Walt Disney want from me, because generally the way I teach and paint has not much to do with animation, but I am very, very, very curious. And I hope they don't convert me. I still want to carry on working with all sorts of styles and inspired by classical technique. Let's bring some of this light further down, because about at least 2/3 of that finger are in the light, and there's just a sliver of shadow underneath, you know. So we have to bring the light slightly lower to make sure that... Okay, I'm a bit happier now with this. And also notice that the... how can I say, the top finger here, the light also needs to drop lower, you know. So let us gradually start invading these sections with more accurate colors. Now, a painting like this, in order to fully render it and make it hyper realistic, it would take, I don't know, I can't really tell you in advance, because it depends how you feel on that day. You know, you're not always equally prolific as you paint. But oh no, Raji, I don't want to do digital art. You know, I really love painting. I'm not interested in doing digital art. I like to see it, but I don't like to do it. I love the materiality of traditional paints and so on. Now, like I told you before, I'm going to crop the top ever so slightly. And look what I'm doing. I'm really hyper simplifying the tones. I'm really making all the lights a kind of a grayish orange, pretty much flattening them, you know, ignoring variations, ignoring variety, you know, ignoring complexity. I'm hyper simplifying. At the same time, I'm also shading, sometimes conceptually. So I'm still using this conceptual shading. And the other thing is that you are constantly... oh, I see what you mean, Sangeeta. This is annoying because I'm seeing from this angle. Can you see how the ring finger is so much smaller? I'm going to change that straight away. I'm going to try to look at the screen from an angle that it makes more sense to you guys. Because from where I was, definitely that finger was not as long. Now, back to where I was. I really need to start moving deeper now into the shadows. And we had agreed that shadows would be cooler. Now, remember, I hate the terms warm and cool. I really do. I think they're silly. You know, they're essentially for people who don't know how to describe color. So when you say warm, cool, it's kind of silly because really and truly, warm and cool tones don't exist. Warm and cool are conventions. Warm and cool are things that we say to facilitate students' work. Does that make sense? It's almost like, in reality, you shouldn't use the terms warm and cool because they don't say anything. Ask 20 different people if a certain color is warm or cool, and you'll get 20 different answers, literally. And I mean it. I mean literally, you will have no... there's absolutely no definition of warm and cool that is going to please everybody. So I prefer instead to use more effective color descriptions, such as, for example, tell me, you've been having lessons with me, how do I tend to describe color shifts? Do I use warm and cool a lot? Don't you dare saying yes. Do I use warm and cool a lot? Or do I tend to use very different definitions? Please tell me. Is it warm and cool? No. I prefer to use things like bluer, more orange, you know, greener, redder, because that's definitely much more accurate than just saying warm, cool. Warm, cool don't mean anything, you know. Warm, cool are just talk. And I know a lot of people use this type of terms, you know, such as warm, this is cool. But in reality, warm and cool do not really exist. Now, this is like painting from television, you know, I have to constantly look back to make sure that what you see is similar to what I am seeing, just because I am looking from such a different angle, this sculpture. I'm not going to do live streams again with these strange angles. I refuse to. You have to pay me a lot if you want to see me doing really strange live streams from different angles. Now, the bottom of the hand, it's not resolved. This was just the start of a shape, and the same with the very, very back of the hand. This is not resolved either. Absolutely, Raji. I don't like to use warm and cool. I prefer to use hues. You know, is it bluer? Is it redder? Is it, because it's much more it's much more precise than just saying random things like warm, cool. You know, what does warm and cool mean anyway? What does it mean? It's so relative. You know, colors are so relative when you describe them in terms of warm and cool. So relative that actually I don't think it has any value whatsoever. Sorry, I'm not looking now. And then I will have to look again, because what I see is totally different to what you see. Now, in terms of shape, time to bring this slightly lower. And I don't care if it gets a bit smudgy. That's kind of irrelevant at this stage. And remember that the way I describe color and paint, you are always on an initial stage. Very rarely I'd say, okay, now let's deal with details, you know, because details are not as important as most people think, including sometimes artists, you know, they're not as important. Okay, back to our bright shades. And I think I'm going to mix a crazy tone here. I think I'm going to go really bold. Because we had decided last week that the shadows would be bright, hadn't we? So I'm just going to start marking something like really bold to create such a nice feeling of color intensity in the shadows. I don't know if you can see on camera, but this is a super bright blue. I'm not sure if you can see on camera because I'm looking at my phone and I look at the color looks so dull on camera, but actually when I'm painting it's a super bright blue. Raji, you asked me if I'm using a super thin brush. Not at all. It's very thick. Compare it with my thumb. It's actually very thick brush. You know, I don't use thin brushes at this stage because that's very amateur. I'm just gonna break. I need to introduce a line there. And eventually drop that shadow ever so slightly. And now you ask me, why did I paint the blue so high up if that bit is still meant to be in the light and it's lower? And the answer is that when you paint, it's always nice to have go over the edge and then cut it back. And that usually looks better than if you try to paint very neat within your edges. Does that make sense? So avoid being too neat, because then you're compromising how bold and how can I say? Yeah, how bold. I think how bold is a good word. You are really compromising how bold you will be if you're over concerned with painting things neat and nice and very pretty. I think pretty is the word. So I don't want to see pretty in anyone's paintings. By the way, thank you so much for sharing the paintings with me. I've received some really beautiful submissions of paintings that you are painting at home while I'm live streaming. And I would like to see more. So if you guys can send me more of those, and if you can share on, for example, on Facebook and then tag me, then I'll really be able to see what you're up to, you know, because at the moment a live stream is a live stream is a live stream. There isn't much more I can do. And see, I'm going blue into the shadows. I'm definitely going to accentuate some of those with some blues as well. I will bring in the bottom of the hand into a different shape. Let's round this up without rounding it up, you know, by using the zigzags, but let's just drop that shape ever so slightly. I am going to start making some gradients here where the blue gradually moves towards the grayer light, because we had agreed, remember, we had agreed that the lights would be grayer and orangey and the blues would be slightly, you know, more vivid and more oh, I can't speak while I teach. You know, more vivid and more whatever. You're probably thinking that I'm starting to lose it. Now, question to the students, question to you. Is this light here in the light or in the dark? How do I know? What's in the light or what's in the dark when you look at an object? Let me zoom in. So now we're looking at the hand. Okay. And my question is, as you look into this section of the hand, how do you know if something is really a true shadow or if it's a false shadow? How do you know? And this this brush, you know, this stick is giving you a hint. It's really giving you a hint. I'm going to teach you a trick now. Yes, it's actually more in the light than what it seems. Why? Because when I move the brush there, can you see that the brush casts a shadow on top of the shadow? If this was a true shadow, that would have been impossible. Okay? Because the brush is casting a darker shadow onto the shadow itself, it means that this shadow is actually in the light. Does that make sense? So I hope, I do hope that it's starting to make sense to you and a little bit of the palette, so you can see how I'm mixing the colors. Does that make sense? So technically this shouldn't be blue at all, but because we don't have a true shadow in this painting, and I really want to exaggerate the contrasts of light and dark, I chose to paint this blue. But it's a choice. Do you understand? It's not a, you know, it's not something I would do otherwise. It's a choice. It's not something that you have to do. And the same here. The shadow on the finger, it's actually not a real shadow. It's slightly in the light. It's not really, it's not like the dark side of the moon. Do you guys understand? The dark side of the moon is the real shadow. And when a shadow belongs to the dark side of the moon, it doesn't get affected by shapes cast by this brush. Okay, let me try to find an easier way. Aha! I might have found one. Okay, I found the real shadow to show you now. Let's zoom in. Because I really don't want to botch this explanation, because I want you guys to understand this today. Understand this. Look at my brush casting a shadow onto the, you know, onto these false shadows. But look how deep inside there, my brush has no effect on that shadow. It doesn't darken it any further. Can you see that? The cast shadow does not darken that shadow inside any further. That's a real shadow, not anything else. So this is the only bit that is a real shadow. All right? So now you understand what I mean. Why is it that important? It really helps you to make artistic decisions, such as, do I need, because you know the law. You know the law. Let's zoom in again. You know the law of perception that says that the lights in the shadow are darker than what they seem. Which means that if this is a shadow, a true shadow, those lights in that shadow, they're much darker than what they seem. And the law of perception also says that the shadows in the light, they're lighter than what they seem. So think with me, if this is a shadow in the light, because my brush is casting a shadow, so it's in the light, this so-called shadow, which is not a shadow at all, it's lighter than what it seems. Okay? And this is going to help you to shade faster and quicker and better than if you were just doing it by heart and based on your intuition. Any questions? Let me see if I can get this roughly back to position. It wasn't so much. It was more like... I can't remember where the where the sculpture was. But I hope you understood now what I mean. And why is it so important to know if something belongs to the light or if something belongs to the shadow? Sorry, wrong value. I'm going to take a new brush so I can lighten this a bit faster without losing so much time. Okay, there we go. So now I'm mixing. Tell me, that shadow there, where my brush is pointing, does it belong to the light or does it belong to the shadows? Write it down, please, on the comments section. When I put an object on top, is that shadow here affected or not? Does this shadow get darker or not when my brush casts a shadow over the object? You tell me. Does it get... It belongs to the light, exactly. So what does the law of perception say? That the shadows in the light, because this is in the light, it's casting, the brush is casting a shadow. The shadows in the lights are much lighter than what they seem. So I'm going to paint them almost as light as the lights themselves. Do you understand? I'm really going to paint them practically the same value as the lights themselves. And remember that when acrylics dry, they change value. So what I'm doing at the moment is just painting a very light shadow, and let's see how this value dries, and then I'll adjust. I'll make it lighter or darker accordingly, depending to what is necessary. You always have to adjust things when you paint with acrylics, because the color never really dries the way you expect it to dry. Or maybe I should say the color never really dries the way it should. It's still a bit too light, so I'm going to darken it ever so slightly. And because it's in the light, I'm going to darken it with a bit of orange. I'm not going to allow this tone to be bluish, because it's still facing the light. But definitely the color should be lighter than what it seems. So this shadow, I still don't allow it to go too dark. It still belongs to the light. Do you guys understand what I'm trying to say and what I mean by that? It must be almost the color of the light. Almost. Because it's facing the light. Okay, I'm happier now with this type of value. Yeah, I think now this value, it's better. It's just a little bit darker than the light. Okay? The shape of the finger is still too fat. I'll deal with that later. It doesn't really matter. Now I'm into the shading. And because I like this color, I'm going to use it for some of the other transition tones. I'm going to use it to create mid-tones that will start merging light and dark. Sorry, the paint is a bit dryish. Just adding a bit of water to make sure that it flows a bit better. Yeah, now it's kind of flowing better and less annoyances, you know, less. And now we're moving into the light. I'm just reinforcing the light again and bringing some of this light slightly further down. And see, with 3 tones, so simple, right? With 3 tones, you can almost create the illusion of a gradient. It's not difficult to start rendering form. And what's the advantage of leaving all the lights quite light and all the pseudo shadows quite compressed together? It's starting to look more 3D. Do you understand? So because I'm not really painting some of those lights as light as that, it looks like that half of the hand is further away than this half of the hand. But I'm aware that I'm cheating a bit. So it's time to gradually move down into some of the mid-tones and create something a little bit less shy than what we've been doing so far. You know, I'm just going to create now a slightly darker tone, an oranger, and I'm going to bring a little bit. I really don't like this tone. Sorry. This is better for these sides here of the shadows in the light. I'm gonna make. I'm just drawing now. I'm not toning with exact color. I'm just drawing some of the structure there. I'm gonna bring it further out. Yeah, I prefer that. And now I'm gonna move much more into the light, because if the brush can cast a shadow, then that belongs in the light, although it might look darkish, but it still belongs in the lights. Do you guys understand? Say yes. Please ask questions if you don't. Let me bring this further out, because that was a bit too compressed. So this compression of tone is going to help me to get rid of a lot of visual noise that otherwise would be kind of tiresome to paint with. And by getting rid of some of this visual noise, you guys can start creating. It's kind of faster, it's kind of nicer as well, and it saves you for the real deal later on. So let's start to bring a bit more light. But see, I refuse this light to be as bright as the one on top of the fingers. Why? Why is that? Why must you refuse to bring, you know, some of these lights as light as the bit on the top of the fingers? Do you guys remember when I spoke about conceptual shading versus what's the word? Versus optical shading, you know? Last week, If you haven't seen that, I really want you to watch last week's live stream. We spoke the difference between optical shading, you know, more impressionist, more based on vision, and conceptual shading, which is a style where you rationally decide where the light is coming from and the shadow and things like that, and you deliberately start creating a world that you don't have to see in front of you. It's a bit like illustration. Maybe that's why Disney wants me, I don't know. The Russians are particularly good at doing that. You know, conceptual shading. In the Russian schools of art, well, the traditional ones, the classical ones, I don't know how much it's still enforced nowadays. But in the classically inspired Russian schools of art, there's this huge emphasis on conceptual shading because it allows you to draw and paint from imagination. Okay? When you can draw and paint from imagination is because you know where to shade without having to look at a real object. And now look what's happening. Let me zoom out. All right. Now look what's happening. Although there's lots of corrections to be made, you know, that finger is too fat, the some are a bit too long, some are a bit too short. This is just a quick live stream. And those shadows are too compressed. It doesn't matter. It's starting to look so much more 3D than last week. Would you agree? Because I'm compressing all the lights in the light and the shadows in the shadow. Well, in reality, we don't have real shadows, as we realized earlier before. And Raji, thanks for letting me know. You said the hand is now almost totally entirely gray. Very good. I'm going to warm it up ever so slightly later. But there's a rule of painting that says first you deal with values, then you deal with chroma after, not before. So I'm still dealing a little bit with values, you know, because they needed adjustment. Now, time to look through the green glasses. And now, as I look through the green glasses, I can already see very, very clearly where I need to go lighter and where I need to go darker. Very clearly, okay? So try to use dark green glasses when you want to assess your paintings. And it's actually so easy to see. Sorry, let me rotate this so I can see it roughly from the same angle as you guys. Oh yeah, now I can see really clearly where to move from here. Really, really easy. And I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to quickly jump into some sections here and just cut out overstated things, you know, because we don't need these overstatements. We really don't. We don't need to have things looking to what's the word? You don't want to overemphasize if you can make more subtle, you know, if you can get them more I think subtle is really the word. You don't want to overemphasize what doesn't need overemphasizing to start with. Millie, I got my glasses online, you know, I just typed John Lennon green glasses, you know, something of that sort, and I found lots of models, and then you can really buy your favorite model, you know. I generally look okay with John Lennon type of glasses, you know, the round ones. That's why I got that. So Raji, let me just quickly do this as the live stream, you know, there's a time limit for this live stream, and I really want to just very quickly create a brighter shade of orange, because we only have 10 minutes now. I want to create a brighter shade of orange. Oops, there was water on my brush. So I'm going to create a high chroma, very light orange, which I'm now going to use to start painting some of the lighter lights, you know, so that chroma can gradually come back. I'm already dropping the shape of the finger ever so slightly. I'm a bit, you know, this white is a bit transparent, which generally I don't like as much. But because this white is a bit transparent, I might have to go over twice on the very same sections of this painting. Look, I haven't even defined nails or you know, something of that kind, because in reality it's not as important. What I really want to paint now and start defining is where the lights and darks are going to be. Let me just mix some more white, because it's getting really orange. Really, really orange. The orange is starting to sip in and take over. There we go. Now we have a real light tone. It was getting really, really orange. And you can use, you can scumble if you want, you know, you can scumble some of these tones to make transitions. But I don't recommend you do. Generally, try to paint opaquely. Try to paint with enough paint on your brush to mix the color you aim for. And then if necessary, you can scumble later. Scumbling, for those who don't know, scumbling is when you paint with almost no paint on the brush whatsoever. So you just leave a very, very thin film, you know, and that is called scumbling. So I think that gradually this hand is starting to look more and more 3D. And pay attention to this. Pay attention how I'm really avoiding any sort of detail. I'm just doing blobs, you know. And the blobs sometimes create the illusion of detail. Other times they don't. Because a little bit of blobbiness can really look good on a painting anyway. You know, it's not like it's forbidden. But in classical art, in classical painting, generally, you want a high finish. This is not the aim of these live streams. The aim of the live streams are to give a fast introduction, you know, like a quick how-to, so you guys can really paint at home along with me, okay? Just paint along with me. Don't watch. There's nothing to learn, you know. I'm joking. We should always be learning. We should always be doing and pushing ourselves into higher levels. Now, back to kind of mid-tones and back to some orangey tones. And I would like to start invading some of these, you know, with a new color that is kind of warmer and ideally even lighter. Because this white is so transparent, I'm actually going to use a lot of white, because it won't cover the previous tone that easily. It's a very, very transparent paint. Okay, that's better. That's better. And now you can start painting on and bringing this lighter color further down, you know, into the almost towards the bottom. Really, it's pretty much everything light. And as you come here, you can start blending the tones. See, now I'm scumbling. I'm scumbling in the sense that the lights and the darks are now starting to be applied more thinly. more thinly does not mean super thinly, but it's becoming a little bit more thin. This shape is wrong anyway. You would have to drop lower. Okay. Now some of these are already looking too light to me. You might disagree. You might say, no, 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 Nelson, that's actually the right tone. But I will say, watch again, and you'll realize that because the shadows don't have yet the exact value, we are being misled. You know, we are being tricked by optical illusions. So it's important not to allow ourselves to be tricked by optical illusions. And it's also important not to be afraid to then invade things that you thought will look ugly. So for example, painting that dark there, I know it's going to be ugly because now it's too long. But that's because the initial shadow was in the wrong place. It doesn't matter. Later, as you go back into the painting, you see, you're going to paint the light over again, and that will just cut the shape, and you can trim it. I really need you to learn this. You can paint things bigger and then smaller and then bigger and then smaller. Absolutely, Angela. The placing of the light and the shadow suggests that the details are there. They're not. It's an illusion, you know, it's an optical illusion. And I love playing with optical illusions. It's really, really fun to trick the viewer into believing that there's lots of detail on a painting when there isn't. It's really, really fun thing to do. Now, I believe our live stream is almost ending, which really annoys me because I want us to show you more. You know, I want us to, you know, to bring more into these sessions. I know they're short, so that there isn't much we can do during a live stream. But if you have any questions, please ask them now, because I'm still, I'm still reading. I'm still checking if you sent me any messages, you know. I am still paying attention to that. Because in about 5 minutes, we are finishing this live stream. And this is the time really to ask questions. It's not later, you know. It's not when the stream is over that you are going to ask everything. So it's really and truly a shame. Orangey orange. Orangey or oh, I see. I thought we had decided last week that the orange would be very grayish, didn't we? But I can make it more orange for you. That's easy. Just watch and see. Behold. Orange will be born. Now, question to the students. What's the way to lighten an orange color without going chalky, without going muddy? Actually, I'm going to mix a new batch of orange. I'm not going to go bright orange though, because we had agreed last week that it would be a grayish orange. But I have that question. How do you lighten orange without going chalky? Because when you add white, what does white do to the colors? What does white do to the colors? I'm squeezing the solution definitely far away from the camera, so you guys can't see how to lighten the color without going chalky until you answer. So I'm waiting for your answer. Tell me. How do you lighten a color without making it dull, without making it chalky, you know? Because Sangeeta, you asked me for a more vibrant orange, didn't you? So how do you lighten it Hmm? Only Sangeeta is watching the lesson. Come on, guys. I'm waiting for your answer until then. There will be no painting. So until you give me an answer, I refuse to paint. How do you lighten orange without going dull? Hmm? Without going dull, Angela. If you add gray, it goes dull. Absolutely, Crystal. Yes, bravo. It's with yellow. So, what is the color that is lighter than orange but still vibrant? It's yellow. So you can use yellow to lighten an orange shade without going grayish. Okay? Brown, Raji, is not a bright color. So if you add brown, you are dulling it again. Yet again, you know, we want this to be a paler shade of orange, but without losing the chroma, without losing the okay, this might, oops, I just mixed it accidentally with some gray that was on the palette. Let me get some more white. This white is so transparent, really, that I have to add a lot to it. So I'm now adding to the yellowish orange the white, and this will guarantee that this orange color now that I'm going to apply, sorry, I know you guys can't see a thing at the moment because I'm still just mixing a color. Now I'm going to go slightly more vibrant in some areas, so there is more chroma. You see, there is more there's more for less. you get more chroma without going so chalky, without going so dull. And then, of course, if you find it's too yellow, that's not a problem. You just add a little more touch of orange. But at the moment, I'm not worried with that because hue is not that relevant. I'm much more interested in bringing the chroma higher. Just because you asked me, Sangeeta, we were not meant to. We were meant to be painting with grayish lights and bright shadows. But because you requested, it's like a tune, you know, you tell me which song you want to listen and I will sing it to you. So we are bringing now the chroma higher. We are bringing the chroma higher in such a way that it's really lovely and beautiful, and we can start creating, we can start making a more interesting outcome just by literally bringing some of that chroma higher. But I repeat, we were not meant to. It's just because you asked. Now, I believe we are running now out of time. I'm gonna trim that finger later. I'll do lots of things. But let's zoom out. And you've learned today how to wear sunglasses. You've also learned today that we always need something beautiful next to us as a muse. You know, every artist has his muse, and she is my muse for tonight. This actually came from Oman, this rabbit, and I thought it was so incredibly ugly that I had to buy it, and it was the ugliest thing in the shop. I particularly love how they fixed the crack, because see, this was cracked, and I love how they fixed it with a glue that had the color and then dripped down. Very important, you know, always have your muse right next to you as you paint. I'm going to leave you now to it. Please paint yourselves, you know, paint, well, not yourselves, but get some paints and just go for it. And today, Today we were playing with illusion of detail. There's absolutely no detail on this painting, as you can see. It's just a sketch, you know. But you can create the illusion of detail by just positioning the values in the right place. Oh yes, Sangeeta, I think this is a pig, because actually, let me take the glasses off. Actually, this is a piggy bank. And just to complete tonight's lesson, so you have nightmares, look at the color of the bomb. It's incredibly bright pink. I mean, this is pink. This is neon. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Lots of love to everyone, as usual. And don't forget to share not just this video, but also your drawings. I really want to see what you're up to. And very soon you are going to be invited to join my real courses online, you know. I'm just getting ready now. It's something you've never seen before. I don't want to brag, but you've never seen art lessons like the ones that are about to come out. It's probably next month. It's going to be everything filmed in 4K quality. Renato is doing a fantastic job. He asks me to repeat the same things like 20 times. Renato is a perfectionist. Oh, so you know, I finished drawing something and he might just tell me, can you draw that again? It still doesn't look good on camera. And I'm like, okay. And then I say something and he's like, that sucks. Can you say that again with more conviction? So yeah, I'm learning how to speak. I'm learning how to film on camera. Guys, lots of love to everybody. Take care then. Ciao. Bye.